everyone. Welcome to Unmasked with Cassidy Megan podcast. We're here with Kim from BC Epilepsy Society and I'm a Voice campaign. Kim, do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself?
Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Cassidy. I am, yes, the CEO and Executive Director for BC Epilepsy Society and the founder for I'm a Voice for Epilepsy Awareness campaign. I'm also the host of a podcast called Voice Epilepsy, and quite recently became a documentarian and producer creator of the What If docuseries, and all to push out awareness around epilepsy.
Excellent. So, Kim, how does epilepsy affect you?
Well, epilepsy affects me, and it's been a part of my life since the age of 8 because I had onset at the age of 8 and had epilepsy until the time I was 14. I had clonic seizures, convulsive in nature, where I would drop and fall and convulse on the ground. At the time, those were called grand mal seizures and are now called tonic-clonic. And fast forward several decades later, and with a career in education and social services, and also in health and leadership type positions within nonprofits, I circled back and now in epilepsy world, raising awareness, raising money, and trying to change some legislation here in our province around appropriate funding and building appropriate infrastructures for adult epilepsy.
Excellent. It's amazing that I think it's really amazing that who better to help like that you and like a lot of your staff I know had epilepsy and like so they can relate on an even more like personal level to people who come to you for help too.
Yes, like the integrity of hiring and walking the walk and talking the talk, right? And ensuring that we are employing people living with epilepsy, that lived experience. So 70% of my staff have epilepsy. All of my board members either have epilepsy or their children have epilepsy. So we all have skin in the game. So that's a new other perspective that we're able to bring in when people are connecting in with us and really understand the journey.
Definitely. I love that. I like that's something against like other associations, of course. Like they're amazing what they do and you can do such amazing work without having a personal connection to epilepsy. But I know that like it's always easier and to talk to someone who gets it firsthand or secondhand or firsthand and that perspective. So I think it's amazing. And also that you're employing these people with epilepsy, and some of them of which, unfortunately, the stigma of you being fired due to epilepsy or not hired at all, they get to have a sustainable job for themselves despite their health. And I think that's a huge statement in itself too.
It is because we know that in with some employers, having epilepsy is considered a deficiency, and they're thinking that this person's going to be taking time off work. What is it going to mean to them in terms of just having being resourced appropriately? For us, we take it as a blessing. People need the time off. People need to do what they need to do, and we're here to support them. And I agree with you. You don't have to have epilepsy in order to be a great staff person. You need to have compassion and empathy. And those things are not taught in textbooks. Okay. So it's a
No,
special kind of person that needs to step forward and step into this kind of helping field.
it's so true. And textbooks in school can teach you a lot, but it can't teach you empathy. The empathy comes from mingling with people, talking to people, your own characteristics. So I agree. It takes someone really special and empathetic to really build the most help for that. Um, so on the topic of like the stigmas and obstacles and all that, what are some obstacles you faced that you've had to overcome?
I think personally that there's obstacles in everyone's life, and there's where there's obstacles, there's opportunities. And I think that some of the personal ones I had, of course, was education around epilepsy. I had epilepsy way back, like decades ago. And so the awareness, I mean, partly in due to the stuff that you've done in the last just over a decade or so, there wasn't a whole lot of information. So I think that those obstacles for me was kind of like explaining to everybody that what epilepsy was, and not really having maybe the best script either, because how do kids explain it to other kids? So I think those were challenges for sure.
I could definitely see that. I know like, we didn't know a lot about it growing up when I was first diagnosed, so trying to explain to my friends it was like explaining like a storm in the brain or flicking all the lights off at once or circuit breaker, like power board, something like that. It's just try to find references, I think, but it still doesn't really, I guess. Before you even knew that, like, how would you explain it?
Right. Yeah. I was electrocuted as a kid, and I have like some scars on my hands and feet. And so I always explain my seizures, like because they're convulsive and the way the muscles would constrict, was like being electrocuted. I mean, I had that
Okay.
sensation. I had that where every muscle was going, and um, and I got thrown from the current and such. And that's how I describe it. It's like being zapped, or my experience was.
Yeah. That's a really interesting way to describe it. And it's
You know,
true too. It is kind of like if you got electrocuted or something.
yeah, because when you're like when it constricts and you can't breathe, you can't catch your breath, and there's that sound that happens for some, and it's because yeah, every muscle in your body has been tightening and is jerking, and that's the only thing I can. It's the closest thing to describing it for me.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Um. So like when you diagnosed, you said you didn't. There wasn't a lot of education around it. How did you? I imagine at that point there must have been even more stigma and discrimination than there is maybe even now. How did you find you dealt with it all and overcome everything that the stigma and discrimination that came along with epilepsy?
Well, I think like when you're little and stuff, you're confused, right? I'm one of 10 kids. The other nine don't have epilepsy. I'm asking my parents, like, I don't understand. Anybody in the family have epilepsy? No, nobody in the family has epilepsy. You're the one. Yeah, that's it. And so it's like it was so random. And we know that, 69% of people that have epilepsy, there's no known cause. So I would fall into that category. And there was nothing really that my parents could say because they don't know. And still today, we don't know what the cause is for that number. And both my parents are in the medical field. Uh, I think that, in terms of the obstacles, I wasn't held back from, swimming and water skiing with my family because my parents were both medical. I was treated like the other nine. I think about it now and I'm going, wow, that maybe wasn't such a good idea, some of this stuff. But I think that there were always eyeballs on me, and so that I was always somewhat supervised. But I wasn't held back, and I think that I would encourage people to really look at that as parents when you have kids with epilepsy, is really try to have as much exposure of normalcy as possible, as safe for kids. So I think that, yeah, I wasn't limited, Cassidy.
Definitely. I kind of grip the same way. Like, we always had, like, kept in mind my seizures and epilepsy, but, like, my favorite thing to do was go swimming. I love swimming seasons. I love it. You go over the waist or your knees, wear a life jacket, always have a friend with you when, like, you go for walks or bike rides, something like that. But, like, those activities are always more fun with friends, too, though. So, like, I never really thought of it a bad thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've always been big. You don't have to let your epilepsy stop you. You can find ways to adapt and do do all of everything everyone else does. You just make the adaptations that allow you to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting these days, right, Cassidy? We have someone I just read yesterday, I'm forgetting his name right now, was just drafted into the NFL as quarterback living with epilepsy.
Yeah.
There's all these people, and if you have epilepsy and it's controlled with medication, there's unlimited potential.
Mhm.
If you have epilepsy and it's drug resistant epilepsy and you're still struggling with, random and ongoing seizures, there's still opportunity. It just needs to be adapted, and it needs to be more of a supportive environment, but there's still unlimited potential in both.
There
And
is.
yeah, yeah.
Even when I was younger and like my seizures weren't as controlled as they were now, I talked to my neurologist and I'm like, hey, yeah, I want to go into cheerleading, like competitive cheerleading, not like sports kind of anything like that, like for like sports teams. He's like, just don't be the one that gets thrown in the air. I'm like, that's fair. And like I think at one point I was, and he was having like a little bit of he was stressing a little, but I was fine, and like that was the only like adaptation condition. I could do any other position in the on the team, and yeah, so you just make adaptations and make sure your whoever you're doing it with is aware of your epilepsy and knows how to help.
Right. Yeah. And by doing that, right, we're breaking down some of those barriers that'll come for the kids behind us. Right. So the next little girl that comes up and wants to be in cheerleading, or little boy that wants to come up, and they're like, okay, so we managed this with Cassidy. We know what to do, and we'll just make these adaptations. So people are less and less afraid each time
Yeah,
one of us comes through.
it's so true. And like I haven't done cheerleading for I don't even know since junior high, I think, and I still like follow my team like on social medias, and they still do Purple Day every year. They're still like educating and full support, really supportive, and it's like all these new people and new teams they have are getting that education still. So that's always been really good to see.
Yeah. And you know what'll happen is their kids and then their kids of their kids and so on, right? It's passed down in generations. It's spread out that knowledge in families, and it's such a huge win. Yeah.
It definitely is. Um, I believe so. I just looked up the football player you're talking about, Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. People should definitely check that out because, again, like no matter your age, no matter your health, you can do these things. Like NFL player, like that's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and Alan, I think Fanica. I'm not sure how the last one's pronounced. Also NFL with this like the Skeeters, I believe. Steelers.
Okay.
Not best with words. But yeah, so like both of them have epilepsy and they're like in the NFL doing all these sports and despite having health issues, despite having epilepsy.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't define them. It didn't um have any kind of negative impact with those great NFL teams that have, I mean, this young man is a first round draft pick as a quarterback in the NFL. And coming out of Ohio State, he's never missed a game. He, thank you to those coaches and to those sports teams now that are saying that because somebody has epilepsy in athletics, it shouldn't stop them. He has controlled seizures. It is not impacting any of his learning or the capacity for him to play the game. I think it's the first of many to come, and I'm just so happy that both his agent, his and as well as the NFL has come forward to say, yeah, we're doing this recruitment. Thank you for going public.
Definitely, and they're making that much more awareness, and even I think like you still have to worry about like the head injuries with certain sports, but everyone does. So I just think it's amazing that despite the epilepsy, they've brought them onto the team. Kind of like on this, I guess, subject. What is something you wish people knew about epilepsy?
Well, I think that it's really important for people to know, first off, the epilepsy community, and for those that haven't self-disclosed, that what I would like people to know in my experience in dealing with our population is that they're the kindest, most caring and compassionate uh, people I've worked with, and I've worked in social services, health, and education and around a lot of child and youth mental health, all fascinating, fantastic experiences, fantastic, amazing people with unlimited potential. Uh, and but what I found in the epilepsy world, and I've interfaced with thousands now in the last few years, and my experience has been 100% that this population is very special. And I wish that our people living with epilepsy um, would would self-identify. I wish that they would reach into organizations like ours so that we could link everyone together, CEOs and founders and athletes and such. A huge, huge population, 65 million on the planet, right, that have epilepsy. Amazing people, amazing opportunities for people to come together and people that live with epilepsy. I wish that they didn't live in stigma and fear of disclosure. that if they came forward, that we are here for them, and there's a great friendships and connections and networking. There's a special kind of bonding that happens with people with epilepsy, and it's a level of suffering that many have experienced that nobody else will really truly understand. And so we're bonded by that. And I wish that people knew that about epilepsy. And the other piece is that we all have a social responsibility to find a cure for this disease. And I think that that is another piece of the puzzle here that's not talked about enough. It's there is a social responsibility. 65 million people have epilepsy. And we know that the drug resistant population of that is about 22 million people. We need to find a cure. And I think the other thing, Cassidy, is that people don't understand how serious this disease can be. People don't realize that you can die from epilepsy. Now that's a conversation.
That's a
And
conversation in itself, definitely.
right. And that is a conversation. And when we did the Mackenzie McWilliams documentary, and the brother says, in that story, I didn't know about SUDEP until it was too late to know about SUDEP when his brother had died from sudden unexpected death and epilepsy. People need to know that this isn't just convulsing, isn't staring off, that people are dying from this. And that's why we need the research, and that's why we need a cure.
Definitely. And suit up isn't talked about enough, and there's so many like resources for suit up too, like the places you can go to learn more about it that aren't out, that need to be more out there too. And I know like so like we some people like don't like to talk about it because they're too like if they're under a certain age, then like they might be too young to fully understand, or it might be too scary for them at the time. So then people put it off to tell them until they're older and can comprehend it more. But suit up doesn't wait.
No, and SUDEP doesn't care about your age. The fact that people need to know about it, people living with epilepsy, is because this is why it's important for you to take your medication. This is why it's important for you to get your rest. This is why it's important for you to make sure that you are not, you know, there you limit your intake of drugs and alcohol. That typical teenager stuff or young people stuff that you would do. These are the risks. This is what it means. It potentially means for you, and so we do need to talk about SUDAP. And although it's 1 in 1,000 or 2 in 1,000, um, you don't want to be that number if you can help it. You don't want to be that number. And there is, I mean, and it's happening randomly. So people can be doing all the right things and it still happens. And that is it's important. And I think that, you know, Cassidy, the WHO, World Health Organization, in November of 2020 during a pandemic, identified that the second leading cause of disability in the world is neurological disorders. Epilepsy's on that list. And the third leading cause of death in the world, WHO, right, identifies third leading cause of death on this planet is neurological disorders, which is epilepsy falls there too. So it's not just a bunch of random people or agencies out there talking about, how significant the impact is of epilepsy on one's life. You have the integrity of the WHO. You have the integrity of all of the CDC, the disease control um, organizations, agencies worldwide talking about the implications of having epilepsy and what that could mean to somebody's lifestyle, to somebody's quality of life.
Definitely. And even suit up aware too. They've been around for a long time. There are such I've had a few things with that worked with them in the past, and I think if they all work together, we all work together and help talk about it more. Just it'll bring us close to having everyone more aware of it, and hopefully decrease somehow find a cure by talking and sharing our stories, spreading awareness, and the more research. Like working as a team is so important. Like if we can accomplish this much working individually, imagine how much we could accomplish all working together.
That's right. And that's part of what we really want to do with Drive is the Voice for Epilepsy Awareness. International, right? I think it's been really challenging in this country we have people who are, agencies that are running in provincial regions and such, and that's fantastic. You're going to run your provincial mandate. Fantastic, beautiful. Um, but it is not and should never be limited to your region, because epilepsy knows no borders and boundaries. And so one of my challenges in this country was that I was encouraged not to work with the Americans. I had to make some definitive decisions on behalf of BC Epilepsy Society and the I'm a Voice for Epilepsy Awareness to distance myself from associations and organizations that felt that we could not work internationally with other agencies, that our participation in the US and finding out what was happening down there and bringing information back to Canada was critically important. And I think that there should not be a kind of ownership, territorialness around epilepsy. You're doing this, I can't do this. So we have some internal issues around epilepsy. And I think that the reason why epilepsy has not taken off, like autism and other organizations, is because we can't get beyond it. And you're 110% correct. We should be working together. We should be working together. We should be open to other ideas. We should be open to innovative partnerships, opportunities. And so I appreciate you saying that. I agree with you 110%. We're stronger together.
We are, and that's
Stronger together.
we're stronger together. Is like the whole like safety in numbers. Same thing with working together. We can get so much more done with working together. And like this is like National Volunteer Week, and the theme of that is value of one, the power of many. Like it's so important to talk about epilepsy and join forces with each other to spread the awareness. We can get so much more done, so much faster too.
There's so much to learn from each other.
There
And I think that if we take a look at ourselves and always stay in the context of this isn't about us, this is not about us. This is about the 65 million. So how do we get out of each other's way and really focus on that? Focus on the 65 million. How are we best going to serve them? And that is that is something I'm hoping that the epilepsy movement will adjust to in our country. I think the U.S., the Epilepsy Foundation, has done a good job. I mean, of course, there's a little bit of territorialness with them, but under new leadership that they have, with their new CEO coming out and saying, "Hey, there's a different guy at the head of this organization now, and I want to partner with everyone." Thank goodness this has happened. We need something very similar to happen up here in Canada. And I'm so grateful for the Epilepsy Foundation. I'm incredibly appreciative of what's happened with Epilepsy Canada. The fact that Cure has partnered with Epilepsy Canada, that's a huge win. I will be going forward. I will be going forward to partner with them in this country because they get it. And that's who BC Epilepsy Society, that's who I'm a Voice needs to partner with in this country.
It's so true, and it all shows that like we say we're in this together because we are in this together, but to really show that we're in this together, we have to partner with each other and work together as a collective whole. Honestly, related to the brain, your body can't work without every aspect working with it. It's all connected, just like all of us are. And if we work how our body works, then it gets things done. If working together that way works, then we can get things done too.
I think Cassidy, what it is aligning yourself with winners, right? Aligning yourself with people who are somewhat like-minded. An example of that is I don't believe for a second that an epilepsy organization in this country should be closing its doors. There are many of us who have resources to help that guy, to help that community. You don't know how to do a gala? Here's how you do a gala. You don't have the information for a website? I'll give you 20 hours of my staff to help you with your website. That's what we should be doing. We should not be allowing in this country any epilepsy organization to close their doors. When they do that in Quebec and they do that in other provinces, we failed. We failed as an epilepsy community in this country. So I think that that's, I'm a driving force around that we need to be able to help each other and not be threatened by one another.
And we do have to work together, and because it's going to show that if we're really all in this together, then we have to work together to really show and signify that and get that message across.
This is no longer grassroots stuff. We're beyond grassroots stuff. We need to evolve into a place where we're impacting legislation and policy, where we have a national agenda and a national support from the federal government to have a plan for epilepsy. We need this. This is no longer grassroots. This is not a grassroots movement anymore. We've evolved from, excuse me, from infancy into adolescence, and we need everyone to catch up, decision makers in this country to catch up.
Definitely. I could not agree more. And like we can all accomplish so much more if we work as a collective unit. And like you said, we started as grassroots, but we've evolved, and it's time for us to all evolve together. So I'm gonna skip ahead in the question because we did kind of answer what are your dreams for future in epilepsy in a way, but if you want to add on to that question at all.
I would like to add on to that. And I have always lots to say. But what I would like to add to that is that I would love to see that we have the appropriate laws in place in this country to protect people, labor laws around their jobs. That people can't be fired if they have a seizure. They can't be fired if they have epilepsy. That they have supports in place within employment. The second thing I would say that another goal is that the healthcare system has the appropriate funding and is resourced. That doctors have everything they need in this country. They do not, but they need that. And then I think the other thing that I would love to see as a goal is that I would love to see equipment programs for our people. We have pumps for people that have diabetes. You'll have additional therapeutics and electronics that are available for different people to keep them alive and well. Right? We have pacemakers for people that need pacemakers for their hearts. Well, we need the same at VNS and the vagus nerve stimulators for the brain. We need to make sure that if people are having nocturnal seizures and there's a risk of them having SUDEP and dying at night, make sure they have the pillow with the alarm. Make sure they have a mattress alarm. Make sure that they have a watch, a Spire watch, or whatever kind of technology it is, so that if they have a seizure and they're out and about, if they're hiking, if it's a little kid that's going to school, an alarm is sent to mom, to or dad, or to a friend to say, this is your child, or this person that you love has just had a seizure, is sending you information around where they're at, so we had a situation where we had a young lady who was 19 years old. Somebody put something in her drink to provoke a seizure. Okay. These people left her, thought it was funny, right, to watch her seize, and then left her on the street. Then took off running because it wouldn't stop and didn't know what to do. So you have the ambulance showing up to pick this young woman up. We thought these were her friends. But what happened with that is the Aspire watch has sent a message to her dad to let her know that she's had a seizure. Through the GPS, knew exactly where she was, then had an idea of where he needed to go next, and then found out the whole story. But that in itself, that kind of technology helps. If the ambulance never would have came, if nobody would have called, dad would have had an idea where to find his daughter. So I think that there's an equipment program for epilepsy, people that have drug-resistant epilepsy is really, really important. And I think there's an opportunity for Canada to really lead the way. I don't see it happening in any other country yet, but I would love to see that happen. That would be an enormous goal.
That would, I I don't remember hearing about that story. I'm so sorry that happened to that person, but I'm glad also that they had that watch where their parent was able to find them, and they're able to get help, and they're hopefully okay now.
Yeah, well, actually, Cassidy, you can see it on our YouTube. It's one of the stories we tell on YouTube. It's called Sabrina's Story. Sabrina at the time was, she was partying and somewhat, street entrenched and hanging out with some real challenging, some people that just didn't have her best interest at heart, right? And so she tells her story, and there's actually a picture of her in the hospital after that seizure, after they left her downtown, she's black-eyed, tooth is missing. It's there. It's a YouTube story for us. What you'll see if you watch that is you'll see the the entire journey of her. So she comes into BC Epilepsy Society. We start doing some counseling with her and start working with her around her wellness and making great choices and decisions. She started doing this, cooking thing for people with epilepsy, and we were posting her recipes and posting her. We shared her story, but what we did was we said, I believed in her so much, and I said, if we can take care of your health, wellness, and some of your decision making, and she came in, she was volunteering, coming in every day. So we keep this going, and to the best of your ability, um, really improve your lifestyle choices. If you can do this, I'm prepared to take you to the next epilepsy conference in Disneyland. And you can come and you can speak about I'm a Voice for Epilepsy campaign, and you can stand there and you can how this has changed your life, and gave her meaning, gave her acceptance, and the respect and dignity back that she so desperately wanted and needed. So that's part of a story that we shared. And you know what? I'm trying to think if I saw you at that one. But it was very early on, and that we changed her life. We were her lifeline. So I encourage, and so that is specifically the story I just shared with you.
I love that, and that's amazing how much you guys helped her. And it's one of the things I'm actually working on too, is trying to get like epilepsy awareness, seizure first aid into like school curriculums, into the first aid session. Like when you go to take your first aid course, having it in there in depth, having it taught in schools. I'm beginning in gym class and learning about diabetes and cancer, which also very good things to learn about. But my gym teacher had at least 2 prior students who had epilepsy. I'm like, if you already had at least 2 students have epilepsy, why are you not teaching it in your class then? Because yes, you asked me how to help if you see me having a seizure, but what if you're in your office and we're in the field? Do any of my classmates? This is why it has to be in this curriculum. This is why it has to be taught. So that doesn't happen. So nothing like what happened to Sabrina happens again. And um there's just so much awareness that needs to happen, so much education too still. And again, working together, hopefully we can get that done.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because let's take a look at what's happened in the U.S. Right? You have 8 states that have already made it legislative law that their staff have to be trained in seizure first aid. You have another 15 on the books that introduced it to legislation, to the Senate, and those ones are pending, and they will get that passed in those other states. That'll be happening post COVID, I assume. But Washington State, you can't. You're not going to be a teacher in Washington State unless you're trained in seizure first aid. And it's not just for that one student. It's because 1 in 10 people will have a seizure in their lifetime, and it can be low in electrolytes. You can have it from a fever. You can get a seizure from a number of things. 1 in 10 unrelated to epilepsy will have a seizure. So thank goodness they've made that, because it can be the teacher down the hall that has the seizure. It could be a student that has been unidentified that's just going to have the first seizure of their life. It could be your school principal that's going to have it. 1 in 10 are going to have it. So I'm so grateful. And you know what though, Cassidy, that was not an entire epilepsy community working together to get that legislation passed in those states. It was singular. And it only takes one person, a few people to move things along. You don't need to wait for everybody else to catch up.
Definitely, like, that's true. You can do it single-handedly. Like so many people have done so many things single-handedly, and it's great to have the partnerships and teamwork to have that support system behind you and have that security too. But it only takes one person to change the world, and through that one person, others will
Well,
join.
and this is a great time to say this, right? oops, let me go like this. This is, right? This is what we're talking about. One person. We have, of course, International Purple Day in the center of all of this. This is Purple Day in Vancouver. One person is the other person here on this screen, the humble Cassidy Megan, who's done this, one person. You didn't wait for an agency. You didn't wait for an association. You didn't wait for 600 people to get together to decide to do this. You did it. You made the difference, and it's impacting positively 65 million people on the planet. So thank you for saying that.
Thank you. And it's true. I mean, like I started I started at a young age too. So like I didn't really understand how things politics and things work. Mom would try to explain to me and be like, "But why? Why can't I just call the prime minister?" She's like, "Because there's channels." I'm like, "It's not TV. What do you mean?" She's like, so, it never hurts to ask. The worst thing they can say is no. And so I did get no's. I got no, but try again later. No, but I can pass the message on. So like if you have a question of anything, if you want to do anything, just go for it. Because
Right.
honestly, the only one that's stopping you is you.
Yes. And you have, and thank you for saying that, because what happens, there's some fear attached to, how do I step out? How do I voice? How do I take action? How do I just do it? Just just deal with things head on. You want to take every opportunity to inform, to educate, and show up. And it takes courage. And nobody needs to understand um, uh, uh, what kind of trials and tribulations or what kind of planning went into it. Just do it. Just get your messaging out. Just action some of these great ideas that you have. Have the courage, because my goodness, we all have something to learn from each other. It doesn't matter if you're an 8-year-old child, 9-year-old child, or you're 70, 78. It doesn't matter. Step out, step up. What ideas do you have? And if you're concerned about stepping out alone, reach into people like me or like Cassidy, and we'll help you.
Really, I always like sometimes of course it can take us a little bit to get to our messages, but we always respond. I always respond, and I try to get through them as fast as I can. But yeah, like always reach out. I remember someone reached out to me about like they're thinking of starting their own day and they want some pointers, and I was like, definitely. Here's some ways of how to do this. Here's some ways of how to like take your first step to doing this, and like let me reach out again if there's anything else I can do to help. Like
Yeah.
you just it's one question of asking.
Yeah, and you know what's been so beautiful in all of this and what you've done is that if I have anybody that comes forward and says, I really want to be an epilepsy ambassador, it's like, and they're like, oh, well, I signed up, and I'm like, just a second, I got a Cassidy on speed dial. I'm calling her right now. I'll message her right now and see if we could get this fast tracked. And you're always so quick to respond, and you're always so gracious and so happy. And then when they interface with you, they call me back and they're like, oh, Kim, she was so amazing. I can't believe she actually had time to talk to me. So Cassidy, like it's a big deal. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you, and thank you for sending people my way. I always try to send people to you too, if like depending on their needs. Like if you guys can help them, I'm like yes, here's some great agencies to go to. Here's some great agencies to message, because the agencies do so much. You guys do so much to help the community and help the individuals with whether it's helping them overcome one of their struggles in their journey with epilepsy, whether it's they're asking for questions on how to do something. You guys are always there. It kind of leads me into my next question of like, why do you think it's important to be involved with epilepsy agencies and support them?
It's important for the public. It's important for the corporate world. It's important for celebrity to connect in with epilepsy organizations. We need your help. Our government funding is very low, and I can probably say that across the country. And so we need people to come together to help us with fundraising, to help us spread the message, to help us raise awareness. And so we need to kind of grow our network of support. And so if you're getting involved in epilepsy, because so much work needs to be done, any contribution you make is going to be significant. It's going to be huge. You matter and you're needed. And so I think it's really important for people to reach into agencies like ours and like others around the country to help us evolve, and to raise the profile of epilepsy so that we can raise the funds for research and try and find a cure for this disease.
I agree with every part of that. And I guess I just want to throw this in, like, thank you so much for all the support you've given with Purple Day and me and all the agencies that have helped support me. You guys have been so supportive and so helpful in this journey. And yeah, you guys helped push Purple Day that much further to reach that much more people and to help share epilepsy awareness and education. You guys, associations, they do so much. I just quick thank you to all you guys because you guys are amazing advocates and helpers.
Yeah, Cassidy, if I can just inject a little shout out to the Anita Kaufman Foundation, because the fact that they were able to jump on board very early on in your journey, and have been incredible supporters of I'm a Voice. I think that but for them, this movement would have been a little bit different. It would have gone on. I don't think the uptake would have been as quick. I think that the opportunities that Anita Kaufman has had in terms of connecting people with leadership in Japan, with leadership in Brazil, with leadership in other countries, then those connections opened other doors to other countries. The movement totally
Definitely.
100% belongs to you as the figurehead. What they did was they were just able to leverage relationships, and Deb Josephs, who's like a pit bull, and when she gets a hold of something, she doesn't let go, and you always want to have that woman on your corner. And so I think that I think we do need to do a shout out to them, and yeah.
Definitely. The Anita Kaufman Foundation, they joined on in 2009 to help take Purple Day in the States and international. They have been a huge help, and I definitely a huge thanks to them for joining on so early and helping make these connections and believing in me and Purple Day because yeah, they had a big help and we're friends like outside of Purple Day as like partnerships as well. So they've been great learning from too because Anita Kaufman Foundation was around before Purple Day, and so they were already in the game a little. So I got to learn from them too on how to help bring Purple Day that much bigger.
Yeah. And the thing that they've been able to leverage is, of course, pharma companies in the US. We don't have the same kind of pharma companies involved with us up here. So what they've been able to do with ESI, an example of that is when you went to NASA, and Ricky Arnold, the astronaut who wore purple up in the space station, and then down here in Houston, in the control room, all the staff down there were wearing purple on Purple Day.
It's so amazing.
Right. And then they invite you down for a special event at NASA in Houston. You're the guest of honor. Ricky Arnold is saying, but for Cassidy Megan, this has made a huge difference in my daughter's life, in our life, and raising awareness for epilepsy has been a privilege and an honor. And that is all between you and Anita Kaufman Foundation. We're able to pull that off, and so you took Purple Day out of the Earth's stratosphere and into space. Like, who knew that would happen, right?
Since some people have asked me that question, I'm like, from day one, I said around the whole world. But when I heard it was in outer space, I mean, that didn't even seem comprehensible.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to hear that. And I remember like getting the news and playing phone tag with the International Space Station and my mom's cell phone. I'm like, I remember being in the Walmart parking lot in Ontario, visiting because I grew up there to visit family, and getting the phone call. Mom's like, I don't know, it's not a number. Here, take it. It might be the NASA people, and might be NASA. And I'm like, okay, I take it. I'm like, oh my god, it's them. Oh my! Like, start freaking out in the back seat. Mom and Nanny already in Walmart doing their thing. And like I just talked with Ricky Arnold, and we talked about his family, his daughter that has epilepsy, her journey, how it's been with him, how she's dealing with it. I'm even in so when we got to Houston to meet them, I got to meet his daughter as well, which was they're such sweet people, and we're still in contact today. Like we text now and then. It's so sweet people. Love them all, and everyone I meet, I like everyone's so sweet in this community, and I'm so grateful to like you guys, to NASA, to Anita Kaufman Foundation, to EA, to Association of the Maritimes. Everyone's just been, and so many more that the video would be weeks if I listed them all.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for even like here in Nova Scotia, the first year Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes believing in me in Purple Day. In 2008, I was like, yeah, let's do this. I brought them in. They came to my school, did a presentation, and then this 2009 AKF joining on the team and working together to bring it that much further, and what's the word, growing that outreach. And AZI has been amazing too with all the events that they've sponsored and their conferences I got to be a part of. So as UCB here in Canada, just everyone's been so amazing and has so much to offer the community and the world.
Yeah. You know, when we were at Nassau for that event, because there was about 60 of us there, it was an exclusive private event, and Anita Kaufman invited us down as we're the only Canadian organization that's working with them other than potentially some limited interactions with Maritimes. But we work with them very closely. And we were invited down, and it was a huge privilege and honor to be in that room with the 60 and be at Nassau in Houston. And then Nassau, the staff there, because Tyler Barton was there, who's of course one of our champion, a spokesperson for BC Epilepsy Society, and I'm a voice, lives in Houston. So professional golfer shows up. Tyler's there, and Tyler ends up knowing some of the staff there at Nassau because his aunt is is there, and his other aunt is actually the creator and developer of the Aspire watch. So who knew that connection? So Tyler's there, and then Nassau says to us, because I have camera Paul is there, and they said it was okay for us to tape that. So I have the taping of that entire event of Ricky Arnold's speech. We have submitted it back to Nassau, and Nassau, waiting for Nassau to sign off on that. Now, we just recently did that because we were doing documentaries, so we were bogged down in other things. Sent that to Nassau for them to sign off on it. Once they sign off on it, we'll send it back to you and you can post it.
Yes, I'd love to see that. I've been waiting for them. I've been super excited to see them and to see the footage I was taking there. I remember like Paul filmed me in that little light tunnel, and it looked really amazing on the camera. So I'm super excited to see it, the finished product of it all together, and help share it too. So yeah, I'm very excited to see those videos. Um, so if you could give one piece of advice to someone living with epilepsy or recently diagnosed or their family members, what would it be?
My advice would be to do as much research as you can around the diagnosis of your loved one. I would say that it's important to reach out to whatever community agency you have in province to learn more about what kind of resources are available. I think that the other piece of advice I would give them is because we know that in many cases, from the time that you're diagnosed, that you're often on that journey for about 2 years before you're properly diagnosed. So be your best advocate. If you're not getting if your doctor's not hearing you, get another doctor. If a medication is not working for you, go back in and say, this isn't working for me. Don't settle for some of the side effects. There's perhaps another medication that'll work better for you. Uh, Third thing I would say is, what are my other options in the event that I have drug refractory epilepsy? What therapeutics are available? Don't tell me about what the limitations are in my own province. Don't leave out information. VNS is an option. If the docs aren't talking to you about VNS, it's more than likely that they have a cap on those surgeries or that they aren't doing them. So that's okay, but it's still an option. So then that's when you become an advocate to get it done out of province, to get those therapeutics. So I would say ask lots of questions, surround yourself with people who are understanding and compassionate. Become part of a support group and journey with people who have epilepsy because they understand unlike other people will and do. I would say that you need to do some research around disclosure at work. What does that mean for you? It's a personal choice, a personal decision. I would say to somebody that was diagnosed too, what kind of implications does this mean in terms of your own independence, right? You may not be driving anymore. So what does that mean? Does that mean that somebody else is driving you to appointments? Does it mean you're taking public transit? Does that mean that there's an increase in anxiety because you're going out in public and you're concerned that you may have a seizure in public? Do you need to be doing things with friends? So I think there's lots of information that you need to gather, and organizations like ours are here to help you navigate and support you. And I think that the best thing that we do is connect people to each other and build friendships. We have epilepsy friends forever groups for our kids, right? 5 to 7 year olds, 8 year olds to 10 and such. And we bring kids together. We bring teenagers together to make friendships. And so for some of them, the first time they've ever had a friend in their life because they've been so stigmatized and marginalized from their own peer groups. So now they have friends. Now they're having sleepovers for the first time. I would say that that kind of connection with other people in person is really, really important on those hard days, on the days where you've had the seizure, on the day that you're still recovering post-ictal, and you're 2 days out and you're exhausted and you're maybe feeling depressed and down. These people get it, and we can be each other's lifeline. So that's what I would say. I would encourage everyone to reach out, reach in. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. Epilepsy doesn't define you, and if you need an advocate and you're having any problems around discrimination, reach out to us. I talked about Deb being a pit bull. I'm a pretty good pit bull myself. I'm proud of it. We're here to help.
Always. It's, could not have said it better myself. Always reach out. Is there's so many people who've been through what you've gone through, been through what you're going through that can help you and help you overcome this and continue push through this journey. Um, so you have a lot of good events going on right now that people can join on that would be very helpful to their journeys. Do you want to tell us a bit about those?
In terms of events, we have an online um, webinars that are available to everyone. They're going to be posted up on our YouTube channel after they happen live. And tonight we have pediatric surgery webinar with Dr. Mary Connolly. Dr. Mary Connolly is the president-elect for CLAY, so she'll be coming into that position. She is a pediatric epileptologist from BC Children's Hospital, and I'm so glad she's from BC because I think that we're definitely going to be more relevant on the national landscape with her coming from British Columbia. So we have that tonight. And then next week, we have adult epilepsy surgery with Dr. Chantal Rasdale. We have, so please tune in and take a look at those webinars. We have about 5,000 plus views with each of them. In addition to that, I would say that we have our social media feeds that are constantly going. We have our groups that are ongoing. We have podcasts that we launch every Thursday through Epilepsy Voice on Podbean.com. And then so those are the things that we're doing right now because of COVID, right? We're doing everything remotely. I have just recently signed on to doing 2 more documentaries where we'll be sharing out some more stories. And, just that's the only way I think that we can, or I think it's the best way to reach people is to share out the stories. And these stories are quite positive in terms of, sharing the experience of once somebody has the surgery and what the impact is, or that they get the appropriate therapeutic and medication, and how life-changing that is when the medical system and the medications or therapeutics work, and they don't work for everybody, which we understand. But when they do, let's share some of those stories too. So those are the projects that we have, our ongoing engagement with the public.
Excellent. And so you brought up your I'm a Voice campaign a few times, but for those who don't know about it, would you like to expand on what it is and what it entails?
Thank you. Thank you, Cassidy, because it's through the I'm a Voice that I'm able to engage and work with you so closely, and going to some of the conferences and such. And there's a different way of conceptualizing a regional epilepsy organization, BC Epilepsy Society. So BC Epilepsy Society is kind of like, well, why would you guys be going down to the US? Why would you guys be doing no? So we needed to have a way to to spread awareness, to bring information back to Canada, to partner with other organizations. And it was through an international campaign. That's the I'm a Voice for Epilepsy Awareness, knows no borders, boundaries. It provides me with opportunities to do our podcasts internationally, to engage with partners internationally. When it was very apparent to me early on that when I said I was BC Epilepsy Society, international partners could not see themselves with partnering with me. Well, why would we? It's your British Columbia. We're US. How does that work? Well, no, now we're the I'm a Voice for Epilepsy Awareness campaign. Epilepsy knows no borders and boundaries. We can all work together. We're like-minded people, and we can partner through an international agenda. And so that's why I'm a Voice is important. I'm a Voice is also important because we also have a coalition, a membership of, of epilepsy leaders from around the world that sit on that coalition, and they're all like-minded. We want to advance things together. They're from pharma, they're from the corporate world. There are no limitations in terms of the way that we can move things forward internationally. It is not a small scope. It is not regional. It is not national. It's international. And that's why I'm a Voice is important.
Excellent. That is so amazing. And I'm so glad that Our Voice is a thing because, like you said, we did a lot of work together through it. And I'm so glad because you're such a great friend outside this as well. So I'm glad we get to work together on a professional level as too through I'm a Voice. And you're doing such great things with that. Um, I guess as my last question, did do you have anything else you'd like to share? Any advice, any words, or anything else I didn't ask you
Well,
about?
Cassidy, I'm a huge fan, and I say this all the time, and I'm very public about it, and I think it's important to be public around my support for you. And what I would like to say is I'm really grateful for everything that your mom Angela has done to support you in your growth and your development, because not a lot of people have parents like yours. And I think that's been instrumental in growing the initiative. I think that mom is there to do the travel with you and such. And this is just a shout out to other families and loved ones. If you know somebody with epilepsy, be kind, be a good friend. If you're a family member, we need lots of support. And you will never meet a more loyal friend in your life than somebody that lives with epilepsy, because we're hardwired that way. And that's what I'd like to say. I'd just like to say thank you to your family for all the work that they've done, and I'd like to say thank you to you for your friendship and your kindness and the grace that you've shown me.
Thank you, and same to you, Kim. And yes, all everyone. That's something people don't really know about epilepsy is it doesn't just affect us who have the seizures. My brother has worries. My parents have worries, and they're as supportive as they are. I know it affects them, and hearing mom talk about my seizures and helping me through them and helping hearing her explain them, like I get emotional hearing her because I'm like I'm so appreciative that I have that. And it affects your friends too. They have to know how to help me if I have a seizure, if we go out for a drive or we go for a hike. If something happens, they need to know. I go traveling for work, and I first time meeting my coworker, I was gonna be rooming with her. I'm like, look, we're gonna be rooming together. It's something you gotta know. And like, I think I was the first person she met who had epilepsy, so brand new, right into the throes of it. I'm like, don't worry, like just keep that in mind for just in case. Like, like it's okay. Like, if it happens, it happens, and you know now. And if it doesn't, then we're good. And so yeah, your friendship too has helped me see that like how much work has to be done, like how much work can be accomplished together, and how much good you guys are doing. And you also can be very humble, Kim. As much of a pit bull, I think you called it, you can be. You're also very friendly and very loving, and empathetic. So I appreciate that, and I know the people who you work with and appreciate that too, because you have that nature too that makes people trust you, makes people want to work with you. And
Thank you.
yeah,
I just can't stand somebody being mistreated, bullied, marginalized, and nothing is more offensive to this existence on this planet than seeing that and witnessing that. And some people may not have the strength to speak up and speak out about it. I do. And that's where that piece comes from. It's very, very difficult. I just cannot not say something. So
I remember like, well, I remember one time in school I wasn't sure I'd seen someone being bullied or not, if they were just playing around. So I didn't say anything the first time, and then like when I seen it happening more and more, I like confronted one of the people. I'm like, "What's happening here?" Like, kind of like, is this just you guys, how you guys interact with each other, or is something going on? Because like, I'm not gonna accuse, but like, I want to know if like I need to stuff, because it's just like they're two different grades. Like I don't know. And I guess that's another thing of like working together and not being afraid to ask questions, and because that's how you learn, that's how you grow, that's how you educate. And you can, whether you start as an individual and then you grow a team, to have your back and have your support, like we said earlier, it's amazing feeling to know that you have so many people behind you, beside you, with you.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're not
alone.
That's the takeaway, right? You're not alone.
Definitely.
And the other one is you matter. You matter. So
you're not alone. You matter, and you can do so much good. And despite having epilepsy, because your epilepsy doesn't define you, you define you. You define who you are, who you want to be. Nothing else does. You can be whoever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want.
Yep. And if somebody needs to help with that reprogramming, because that's how they've been raised and they've been told in school systems and peer groups and such, that's reach into us. We'll help reprogram you. It'd be privilege.
We really would, because like, as all those like the advocates and supporters are important, because they help all of us know that you are valued and you are important, and I'm a voice. Your voice does matter, and your voice can make a difference for you and others living with epilepsy that might be too shy to talk about it. There might be too discrimination where they're from, so it makes them harder to talk about. So by you sharing your story, it can help them know that it's okay to talk about. Oh yeah. Well, Kim, thank you so much for doing this podcast with me. It was amazing having you on, hearing your story, and thank you so much for sharing it all with us.
Well, thank you. It's an enormous privilege. So thank you. And I hope we get lots of uptake with this story.
I do too. Yeah, I hope you do too. And it was amazing. Yeah, I look forward to posting it and seeing all the positivity it brings.
Thank you.
Well, here you come to sit with me. The northern moon is shining on me. I feel stronger than before. I'm not alone anymore. I look up and you are there.